Hello guys, this is Uso Gaming, and I know it's been quite a long time since the last I posted. College and work kinda took up my time. Anyways, so for the major part of what I'm talking about in this game is we got Black Desert Online. Um, During this time, I was experiencing a little bit of an issue network-wise. Which my ISP assured me that they were doing some form of maintenance and it wasn't gonna affect me too much longer. Of course, this existed for the next couple hours, so please bear with a little bit of the jitteriness that's going on with the video itself. That is not the game that's actually acting up. That is quite literally just my internet at the moment that was acting up. So one thing that I just wanted to go over with everybody is the game itself. I mean, this is Black Desert Online. Originally they had the Korean and Japanese and a Russian server. EU and NA ended up getting our own servers back here March 3rd, which happened to be my birthday then. So, lucky for me, I ended up getting the Conquer package. Called this my early birthday present. And really fun part about this is that so far in this video, my warrior's up to level 30. At this point, I already have a level 50 wizard. I was leveling my first alt at this point, and I gotta say the completely different playstyles that they have between the two. It's pretty interesting, and one of our guildies is playing a like DPS warrior, and as you can see with my character, I'm not very heavy on the damage side. I'm actually stacking more for my defensives, and the mobs I'm fighting here are +4, and the way you can tell this is that their names are dark red. The next tier up, which would be +5, their names are purple, which means that I actually don't hit them as often, essentially because I'm not a high enough level. So they got a really interesting little tier system where, you know, if a mob is the same level as you, the name is in white. If it's a level that's like below you, it's kind of a greenish color. And then like going up, it goes like yellow, then it's a light red, then it's a red, and then after that dark red, you get into these purples like this guy right here. And when I was fighting these mobs, I'm a little bit like I like to go and fight the higher level mobs, and this, as you can see in my video here, and primarily you can see that since I'm not doing a whole lot of damage. I have to actually be careful when I'm fighting some of them, and especially when, as you can see, like if I get a little too close, I'm starting to aggro a couple more mobs here. Luckily, I ended up getting the other one down just prior to this dark red coming over. But besides just talking about what's being shown in the video, what I just wanted to say is basically the game itself. And as you guys know, I played a multitude of different kinds of MMOs, ranging from WoW to Trove to ESO, even going into sandbox games like Space Engineers, Medieval Engineers. It's all very diverse, and like I say, the Black Desert Online does a very good job with providing you with an open capabilities, essentially, because it's quite literally, like some people have mentioned, it is a sandbox MMO. You can go anywhere in this world and there's no loading screens, not a single loading screen. And like you would call me nuts, say that's impossible. So every MMO has loading screens, and I'm telling you right now, and if you haven't watched any other YouTubers, I would highly recommend it, especially ones like, you know, you got Hakurai, Chaparro, you also have Private Wiggles. Like, I would highly recommend like seeing some of their videos, because these guys are the ones that play on the Korean server or have played on the Korean server, and they're so much more knowledgeable when it comes to a lot of the mechanics, and there's a lot of mechanics when it comes to the game. It's not just the combat that is very rich. Every single thing in this game itself. So the crafting system very diverse, and things don't take a small amount of time to craft. Um, I've already made 2 boats. Actually, sold one of them, and the other one I'm using over in a Feria port. But like the crafting actually takes time, and essentially, because your crafter works at a slower rate when the game's turned off, it's a little bit of an incentive for people to have AFK. Work going on, just basically run the game in the background whenever they're asleep or work or whatever. And when it came towards the first time, I wasn't as well prepared when I first built a boat. But other than subtracting a little bit of that time that it caused me to essentially try to figure out what was going on, and just going by essentially how much time and relatively that it went towards building my second one. That is going from turning the game off every night, which I did on the first time, to leaving my game open AFK running while I was asleep, and I cut the time of building my boat by probably half. So I spent it was about 2 days roughly for the boat to be built, and it's just that's when you have a full list of skilled or better workers. So I have skilled and professional workers currently at a Feria port, and most of them are goblins, but there are a couple human and a giant worker. But it still took them time in order to do stuff. And even though that I have mostly goblin workers, goblins being the fastest worker, it still took them a little while to finally build the boat, and believe me, it was worth it. But it's like, it just makes it so the crafting isn't something that you just, throw everything into a forge or throw everything into a wharf or something and you just immediately make it. It doesn't work that way. You have to prepare your materials. Your workers have to then take the materials that you gave them, and they have to convert those materials into a usable format for whatever they're building. So the crafting in this is just very in depth, and it's not only that, but they turn everything in this game into like a mini game. So and this is one of the things that I do a lot, is I'm getting into the horse taming business, and basically what you do is you go out and you catch a horse, and it's not just something simple where you just walk out and you throw a pokeball or something at the darn horse here. No, this involves you completing a little mini game, and the mini game, you lasso the horse and you're trying to get closer to the horse, but then the horse will rear up on its hind legs, and when the horse does that, you have to start hitting your spacebar as fast as you can. Now you might say, Uso, well, that's not really a mini game, that's just you spamming a button. But that's not just the only thing that comes to it. It's when you actually get within range of the horse, you get within proximity of the horse, you have to start feeding it sugar cubes. And the thing is a lot of people before, when I was first starting, they were like, oh yeah, just use 3 sugar cubes. But the problem is that more times than not, when you're just doing maybe 2 or 3 sugar cubes, it seems like the horse does not really give a damn, and then will rear up when you try to mount the horse, and it'll throw you right off, and then you gotta redo the whole process over. Now, 5 sugar cubes, however, did have a little bit better luck, and a lot of people were, seemed like that was their good medium. I'm leveling just about, actually, I'm leveling just about every profession right now. Nearing end of apprentice for most of them, except for hunting. I haven't done anything with hunting yet, and alchemy I just started. But essentially, I got to the point where, because I was loving my cooking, I had, over almost 300 lumps of sugar. So, lumps of raw sugar. So what I ended up doing is I just took that and I would just give 10 to a horse, because it just guaranteed that I was going to get that horse regardless. I I mean, the cooking when it comes to making those are incredibly easy, incredibly cheap. It's like if I'm really trying to get some of these rare horses, or trying to hopefully get a female, which is only a 30% chance out in the wild, then I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna do whatever I can in order to secure that. So, but it's just like the little intricate mini game that they have for that is very interesting. And then they also have fishing, which again they make into a little mini game where basically you cast out your lure, and when you get a bite, you hit the space bar, and then it has a little bar that goes up and down, and you got to get it within like a safe zone in order to catch your fish. Now they also have different types of bait and stuff that you can also use. And another thing is that you can use your energy, which you can see in the top left corner. It looks like a person making a little curl with their arm. Your energy is essentially a resource when it comes to professions. And when it comes to fishing, I always notice that if you use less than 10, it doesn't really count it. It doesn't use your energy or anything. It doesn't go towards getting better loot. But if I'm personally fishing, I'll spend around 10 energy, and I've noticed that I've actually, because it does utilize that 10 plus energy, I have gotten better results when it comes to catching fish. Another really interesting thing is that, and especially if you have a fishing boat, some people, they'll craft a raft and they'll do it, but you might, when you're outside Velia and you look offshore towards the northwest area, you might see like a bunch of rafts all clustered together, and that's because they have what these call are these fishing hotspots. And the really cool thing about this is that these fishing hotspots don't always stay in one place. They actually shift. No one knows yet when they shift or how long they stay in their positions. One of the more educated guesses on that is that around every patch or so, either once every week or 2 weeks, those spots change. So that'd be really interesting to check out. But it's like when you get to these spots, you have a higher chance of getting blue or yellow quality fish, which are basically your rares and epics. And when you have those higher chances, you also have higher chances of getting other loot. So like the ancient relic stones, ancient relic fragments, which if you get 5 of those, you make into a boss scroll, which summons 3 random bosses. But it's just like, there's just so much in this game. There's literally just everything that you could possibly do that you would want to do. And the guild that I'm in currently is Uncrown, which is a friend of mine in real life from conventions. She ended up getting me into this guild, and I gotta say, I gotta really enjoy it. And so we were talking about this, and like, there's a number of the members in that guild is what, this is a term that I didn't hear before, but what they reference as Care Bears, which is basically just people that love to craft and not really focus on too much of the whole leveling process. And this game is very friendly to those Care Bears, where especially if you spend all your time essentially just doing your professions, you don't have to go and grind to get the best gear. You can literally just do your professions and then just buy the gear when it's put up on the marketplace, which is the auction house. And believe me, there's tons of people that put that on there. And another really good thing to note is that the marketplace has a low and a high set for prices for every item, so people can't completely own a market and then make like a certain integral piece like an absurd cost. So they have these like basically a check and balance system that's implemented that the game's systems monitor and adjust the prices accordingly. So say for instance, 1 week a bunch of one item was sold at the high end price and there wasn't any sold at the low end. The game itself will adjust those prices so that high becomes the new like medium essentially. and it's ever evolving and changing, and everything about this game is just I'm completely mind blown. Like, I haven't played a game like this in ages that is so in depth and has so much to give. And you might see some people that are talking about saying, "Oh, well, this game is crap," and stuff like that. Well, those are also the very same people that rushed all the way to endgame, and right now we're kind of in a finicky spot with the NA and EU server, and the reason behind that is simply because they put a partial update through on our system, and the partial update is trying to catch us up in the towards the Korean server, and a lot of people aren't either not aware of this, or they just didn't care enough to actually look. Now, I was watching this video by Private Wiggles, and he was actually doing a Q&A with the Western project manager Rick from Dom Games, and also Joska, which is the community manager on the forums. And they confirmed, that because people were asking about the endgame thing and why there wasn't enough endgame. So Private Wiggles asked that question, and they told him, they were like, "Oh, well, we're kind of in an iffy spot," and the reason being is because they're trying to accelerate our patches, and essentially they're putting our patches in more of a bulk form, trying to catch us up to that Korean server. They would like to get it to the point eventually where we're like a month behind the Korean server, so that essentially the Korean server will be like a test environment for the patches before they hit us. And the reason behind that is because if you look over at the Russian, the Japanese, the Korean server, they're all free to play, whereas the EU and the NA servers were buy to play. And honestly, I think that from what I've experienced so far, is that market model, that payment model, is so much more stable, because otherwise, if you go free to play, you end up with games, unfortunately, like ArcAge, or you end up with games like Neverwinter, where there's a hefty pay to win element in just the cash shop, and it makes it impossible for the players that don't want to, don't have a disposable income that they can just filter into the game. And you'll see a few people that'll say Black Desert Online is pay to win, but honestly, you look at the cash shop, there's maybe one thing that came close to that, and that's just the Alien Tears. But it's, I don't know, like, honestly, I don't think in comparison to any other game I played, that is almost nowhere near the amount of pay-to-play as I've seen in other games. But I gotta say, it's just the amount of work that these people are putting in this game, and the fact that they're answering people's questions. They are, joining these Q&As, trying to educate us what's going on. They're even gonna eventually get to the point where they're gonna do a little bit more than just, meet with some popular YouTubers, where they're actually gonna, Private Wiggles mentioned at one point, "Yay, are you gonna do something like a road ahead?" And they said eventually they'll get to that point, but it's not something that is a priority at the moment. And the reason being is simply because they're putting so much work on trying to accelerate our patch process. And honestly, it's from what I've seen, I'm completely dumbfounded. Like, I can't believe that a developer is going to such lengths to really do this much, this amount of work, and really making this game better. And like, people, like, for instance, people were mentioning, "Hey, we're having lag issues." So you know what the developers are doing? They extended the maintenance. It's actually going on right now. I just happened to be, editing this while they're doing the maintenance. Finally got a little time away from the game, and they're doing the maintenance. It's gonna be a little bit extended, and it's simply because they're addressing that issue. They're putting some fixes in that they're hoping that will, address the issues that are causing this. and another thing that was pointed out is sometimes if you're traveling too fast, for instance on a horse, you'll start noticing that part of the map that doesn't like load in fully all the way, and you kind of like freeze up for a moment. And both Jaska and Rick both actually mentioned, they were like, yeah, this is a known bug. And when they went and met with the Korean when they met with the Korean developers, they pointed this out and they were like, we need to figure out what's going on. So they were working together to essentially try and get this going and to see, if there's some sort of fix that they can work on to implement. So, I'm not saying that that's going to be coming anytime soon. We all know that usually bugs aren't an easy fix. Sometimes, if you fix one bug, you might end up creating another. That is the epic battle of us coders. So, but we'll end up seeing after this. We'll see the patch notes, which, since it's been extended to 8 hours, I believe is how long it's going to be taking. So it'll be around noon time for me because I'm on the East Coast. So we'll be seeing around then, essentially, what these notes look like, maybe a little bit sooner, and hopefully that will address some of these issues. Now, if any of you guys ask me, is the game worth buying to play? 110% right now. I am telling you, this game is worth it. Normally, I'm an altaholic, and I love leveling alt, as you can see in the video, and even then, I have so much that I can do on my main that I feel like even though that I want to level in alt, I'm still trying to, play catch up on my main because I'm trying to do all these professions, and we all know that I love to do my professions, and it's an actual like little challenge when it comes to this. So I'm trying to take everything a little bit of moderation in the process as well. But anyways, I just wanted to thank you all for watching, and if you end up coming, I play on the Eden server. My guild is Uncrowned, and if you guys want to end up playing or anything, just go ahead and let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, and also don't forget, I will end up putting both Hakurai, Shapiro, and Private Wiggles YouTube channels in my description. These 3 right here are the primary 3 channels that I've been watching, which caught me up, essentially kept me ahead of the curve a little bit during the early access process. So a lot of questions that I ended up having, I ended up resorting to their channels because they were able to really answer some difficult questions, especially when it comes to new beginners. Hakurai does an amazing videos when it comes to explaining certain mechanics to new beginners of the game. Anyway.